All right, we should be live any second. And there we go. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris, and this is my channel, Barn on 11970. And as always, I thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. And my voice is starting to get better, but I notice if I start talking too loud, I start sounding like I'm going through puberty. So at 46, I guess either better late than never, or my vocal problems are just not 100% better yet. So with that being said, it is 1:28 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 8th of March, 2017. I want to welcome everybody that's coming in, whether you're seeing it live or watching this days, weeks, months, years, decades, millenniums, and even centuries later, even though I got that out of order. And I hope you'll give this a fair chance because unfortunately, there are people who will take advantage of people's causes, people's insecurities, and people's desire to want to be better. And first off, I want to say it's always a beautiful thing if you are trying to improve your life in some way, shape, or form. And I hope you do that. Unfortunately, there are people who will profit off of our emotions, off of our insecurities, and do it in a way that you think they are actually helping you. So I am not going to make a video attacking modern day feminists and saying they're evil, because that doesn't create any dialogue. It automatically makes one side of a party want to leave and become defensive. So this is not about that, but I hope you will give it a fair opportunity to hear what I have to say, because throughout history, if you research things, you will learn that unfortunately there are some greedy people in this world who will use our ignorance, our trust, our naivety, our emotions, and our financial state to take advantage of us. And there are so many different ways that they do that, but I'm going to focus on the modern day feminist, because it should not be about equality. Now, certain things we want to have equal, of course. We want to all be treated kindly. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. No one wants to be abused. Equal pay, of course, is always a beautiful thing, depending on the work that you do. Now, if you have two people doing the same job, they shouldn't automatically get paid the same if they're not doing the same quality of work and time of work. It should be based on the person working hardest and putting the most effort in. But this is what I want to talk about and what I want you to listen to. The feminist movement is not about, I want to put this the right way, it's not about what you think it is. Now, individually, you're going to think it's all about being equal, and that's fine. And if you believe that and it helps you to become a better person, that's a great thing. But I'm going to talk from a business corporate perspective of how they take advantage of these things. I'm going to go first back in time a little bit. Started with the women's right to vote. So we're talking the early 1900s. Now, during that time, pretty much men were the only people that smoked on average. And the tobacco companies wanted to find a way that they could make more profit off of the people. So during the women's right to vote movement, the tobacco companies would hire as many influential women as they could at that time, gather them together, and either convince them, paid them, threatened them, I don't know, I wasn't there, but got them to be photographed smoking cigarettes. And these people would hire photographers that worked for the newspapers, which many of these politicians and corporate sponsorships owned, to photograph them to show that, look, women are doing what men are doing. Isn't that powerful? And women would say, wow, I want to do that too, because look, it's showing how strong I am. Now, my thing about true strength is, if you need to prove how strong you are constantly by doing what somebody else does, are you really strong, or are you really trying to convince yourself you're strong? It's like security and insecurity. If a person is continually trying to justify how secure they are at themselves and convince people, are they really? But if you think about what happened with that movement, well, it got the tobacco company double its sales because they convinced and tricked women using their emotions. to get them to start smoking, taking advantage of the fact of maybe they wanted more equality. Now, inhaling smoke that burns your lungs and eventually causes you cancer with all the tar and nicotine is not a great way to show how strong a person is. But they used it and took advantage of people who didn't really know what the true agenda was. And the tobacco company doubled their sales because of it. Now, let's move into the 50s era. Well, actually, we need to get past it. Let's get to the 60s. Another feminist movement where women's right to work. Now, of course, women should have the right to work if they want, but I want people to understand or understand the meaning behind how they could profit off of this. Because if you think of it from a financial viewpoint, why the government and corporations would want to further this and push this agenda to take advantage of women's emotions. And they've taken advantage of men many times too, but they've already profited enough of men during the centuries, they needed to double it. Now, when women go into the workforce, what's something that the government can benefit from that fact? Well, there are two main benefits. One is obvious. When you go to work, you get taxes taken out. So if half the population was not working, that's revenue lost by a government system. But if they can get you to work, now they've created a higher tax bracket where they could take more money from the people. So that's just one part. The other part was taking the parents out of the home. Now, before that feminist movement in the 60s, the majority of women tended to stay home. Now, why did they do that? Well, they did that to raise their children, to help teach children values, to show love from a parent. And it's actually been proven, if you do research, children that grow up without physical love and without physical affection and even physical touch, obviously appropriate physical touch from a parent and a loved one, that they tend to grow up more likely to commit crimes. Now, I was the generation that was born, I was born in 1970. So I was born during a little bit after that time where my father worked and my mother worked. And where was I at 10 years old? Well, my babysitter was a television. And if you know anything about TV, television, it teaches children. So the parents were taken out of the homes. The mothers were taken out of the homes so they could profit more. Now, of course, when you're working, when you're doing things to just earn a living, it's very stressful. So that can lower your health, your quality of life. Because believe it or not, if you actually research back before these movements, women tended to be overall happier because they spent their time with their loved ones, with their family, instead of going to work. Now, I'm not saying that women should stop working. You can do whatever you want. My wife goes to work, well, maybe not because she wants to, because she has to. But it is a choice. I mean, how many people win the lottery and then say, you know what, I'm going to spend the rest of my life working at a job I can't stand? No, they tend to stop because why? Working is not the ultimate goal of why we're on this planet. But the whole thing is to take away that family unit, like Lynn Mosley just said, corrupting the family unit. So our children were raised by strangers, by television, by government, by people who did not love them the way their parents did. And it caused a lot of separation. And if you think about how the government has taken away our monetary system in the way it used to have value after they took the gold standard out in 1971, they have made more and more quote unquote money by printing it over and over again. When they use the debt ceiling, fiscal cliff, and it makes our money quote unquote less valuable. It's not the prices go up, it's the value of the currency goes down. So the family had to go to work. Now you push yourself to the 80s/90s. Now both men and women are going to work. They can't pay their bills still because prices are rising because the dollar value is going down. And they started basing things on credit. So that affected the family even more, caused more stress, caused more division. So let's get into modern day feminism. Modern day feminism is not about equality like they try and make you believe, because there never will be equality. Now, you can take a man, chop off his male parts, put makeup on, do hair extensions, do all these things, and alter a man to look like a woman. You could do the same thing to alter a woman to look like a man, but that is not the natural way. You are not born to look the same. But they want to teach you that because it's easier to control you. And again, they use your emotions about empowerment. Now, if you think about it, if women truly wanted to be equal, that would mean that women would want to start doing jobs working underground in the sewers. They would want to build skyscrapers. They would want to clean garbage. They would want to go out on a fishing boat and spend 30 days without showers and living on the ocean, bringing up crabs. These are things, and I can understand why, that many women would probably not want to jump in first in line to be in. I am sure there are plenty of women out there that do not want to put a rifle on their back and go murder people. I'm not saying these are good things. It's all about the point of choosing, and it's all about division. Now, Hopi is making a very unintelligent comment by saying, so you are against transgenders. I've never even used the word, so why you're making assumption is proof how easily conditioned people are. Because here we are, a person coming in a very defensive mode, talking about something that has not even had one breath of a word about. So if you want to make an assumption, that's your naivety, and I'm not going to answer your question because it wasn't even brought up. So thank you, Hopi, for showing your ignorance and how easily people can be controlled. So now, what they do is, with modern day feminism, they try and make women today think that they are being treated unfairly and they are unequal, and that it is not okay to be different. Because that's basically what it boils down to. They're trying to convince women of today to become more like men. And you see it in all of these movies where women are doing things that the average woman cannot do. Well, Hopi, it's not about calming down. I'm very calm. My point is, you made a comment saying, so you are against transgenders when I never said that. So if you're going to make a question, it should be relevant to what I'm speaking about and not making assumptions, because that does not create a positive dialogue. So as far as calming down, I am extremely calm. So Hopi, if you'd like to talk about what we're talking about, stay on topic. Otherwise, I'm going to call out people that make silly comments. And Hopi, your comment was very silly. So back to the conversation. So my thing about what they're doing with women is they're trying to convince you that you need to be empowered. Now, what kind of problems can that cause? Well, what would happen eventually if women convince themselves that they are so much like men and so equal to men and so strong and powerful like men that all of a sudden they start confronting men on a physical level? Now, with few exceptions, the average woman is not going to be able to physically overpower the average man. Now, of course, like I said, there are exceptions. There are people who go into training and learn about jujitsu and all these different things. I'm talking about the average woman and the average man. It's just that men are physically stronger than women. That doesn't mean that women are less because of it. It just means we are supposed to do other things. Men are not the best at nurturing and caring. That's why most of the species in the world, it's the female that raises the child, because women just naturally are more caring, and they're trying to take away from that. So I understand throughout history why we trust people in government, in corporations, on the television, our supposed heroes, these singers who auto-tune, and these actors who lie, who have agendas and basically will say anything that you pay them enough to say, which basically makes them whores. Now, the thought is if you are strong, you don't need to convince people you're strong. If you are secure with who you are, you don't need to convince other people how secure you are. And if you notice these modern day feminist movements, it's not about love. It's not about togetherness. Because if it was, Why is there so much hatred? Why is there so much anger? And as far as, since a couple of people are talking about transgenders, if a person wants to change their gender, that's their right to do it. But it is also somebody else's right to not agree with it or not like it. Now, that doesn't mean you should stop them or hurt them. I know transgenders in my life, not in my family, but when I DJ, there are a bunch of people that come every week that I consider friends that are transgenders. And they even know that I don't agree with it. But that doesn't change the fact that we're friends. Because just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean I'm going to stop them, doesn't mean they're less of a human, doesn't mean that I'm going to hurt them. It just means it's not something I would partake in. Like, for example, if you love broccoli and I don't like broccoli, that just means I don't like it. It doesn't mean you can't have it or it should be banned. And I think that's the problem with this world right now is we're trying so hard to vent all the frustration over the millennia of the government controlling us by controlling our monetary system, by controlling the wars, by controlling the media, by controlling the medicine, by genetically modified foods, is we are so frustrated we need a war to fight. And we're fighting amongst ourselves, and there are people who are taking advantage of this. Because if, like I said, if women wanted true equality, then they would want to do many things that men do. And we don't do a lot of these things because we love to. We do it because we have to and we can. That doesn't make people bad. If a woman decides to want to stay at home and raise their child, why is that now a bad thing? Like, that doesn't mean they're strong. The most respected person in my life is my mother. Because when my father left, when my parents got divorced when I was 10, she raised two children on her own. There was no lawsuits back then, no child support back then. If a father didn't want to make it, well, there was child support, but my mother never, in that generation, you just didn't go and take people to court. If it didn't happen, it didn't happen. And she raised two children on her own. To me, that's true strength. It's not always constantly saying, oh, look how strong I am. Look what I can do. Because my mother never once said, oh, look what I'm doing. Because there's a saying that says, by their deeds you shall know them. And when it comes to control, they take advantage of all of our emotions. So you see these feminist movements now, these modern day feminist movements, is all about getting you to divide yourself, to make you feel empowered by trying to hurt someone else. That is not true empowerment. There's an old saying that says, treat people how you wish to be treated. And if you are spending your days full of anger, full of hatred, and full of division, well, is that saying that's what you want in your life? And a lot of times we project what we really feel inside. And there is a new YouTube video that they've made, and I'm not going to show it because obviously I'll get flagged for it. But if you look in the top left-hand corner of your YouTube channel, you'll see it says, "Her voice is my voice." And it's clearly about division. And luckily, it's got more thumbs down than it has thumbs up, because people are starting to see that there are agendas out there. My thing is, if you spend your time being angry and full of hatred, then it's more about you than anybody else, and you need to look into these things. But if we continue to allow the government and the corporate system to continually feed us these agendas, because they will take advantage of your emotions, they will take advantage of your insecurities, and they will do it in a way that will profit themselves. If we are becoming more loving, then that's a great thing. But if you look at this world today, how much hatred, how much division, how much separation, you have to see it at this point. And if we don't make the changes, it's just going to be another generation lost. And then it's going to continue to get worse and worse. Because there's a reason why people are protesting. There's a reason why people are poorer. There's a reason why there's more birth defects. There is a reason why people are getting sicker all the time. There's a reason why people are more overweight. A lot of it is by choice, but most of it is not, because we don't make food anymore. We don't make the monetary system. We just seem to follow it. And that's why I've said for the longest time, if you want to really fix the world, you have to walk away from a corrupt system. If you go to a casino and you know that that casino is cheating you by hiring tricksters behind the card tables who are finagling with the cards and cheating, well, you can sit there and complain. You could sit there and hold your breath. You can sit there and threaten suicide. You can hold up a picket sign. You can get a bunch of your friends to stand there and say, this is so unfair. If you keep giving them your money, complain all you want, they don't care. But if you walk out of that system, if you walk out of that casino and never give them a dime again, and everybody follows suit, well, either they change or they go out of business. And they don't want you to know about that. They want to feed you agendas to get you to hate each other. They want to send trolls to channels like mine and others to send hatred. And they will trick a few naive people that are full of anger and they can't vent it out on the president or on the corporations or on the media because they're out of reach. But people like myself and others are easy targets because all you have to do is go to their channel and you could say nasty things. Or on your own video channel, you can say nasty things because that's easy. But all we're doing is hurting ourselves and allowing a corrupt system continue forward. So these modern day feminist movements, I know there are plenty of women out there that are very trusting. Men are very trusting too. And a lot of times we've been burned basing our trust too openly without checking into things. I've learned that myself the hard way. And they are using your emotions against you to make you think you should become a man, that you are equal. Now, different is okay. You can still have equality and be different, but they don't want you different. They want you to be men, to look like men, to act like men, to date like men. And all that does is for every woman that decides, or every man that decides they want to marry the same sex, which is fine, you have that right, but the chances of having children are greatly reduced when you have same-sex marriages. It's all about decreasing the population. Now, again, a person has the right to choose any lifestyle or any thought process they want. Just because I don't believe in a certain lifestyle does not mean that I want to stop it or it's evil. It is not for me to decide. I am not God. It is not my job to decide what others do as long as they are not infringing on my rights or trying to hurt me. But we seem in this generation, we seem to have been programmed to think it is our job to tell others how to live. Okay, so let's see what Hopi's saying now. Which kinds of feminists do you base your opinion on? Well, if you were listening to the video, I've said repeatedly modern day feminists. So, Hopi, I'm not really sure why you're here, but please be more careful and listen to what I'm saying. So, if you listen to what I'm saying, you would have no need for that question. So, which kind of feminists do I base my opinion on? Modern day feminists. And I've said that several times. So, Hopi, please pay more attention. So, if you think there's inequality, well, fix something in your life to become more equal. If you don't think you're getting enough pay, well, check what job you're doing. Check what quality of job you're doing. Maybe you need to work harder. Maybe you need to do an extra step or two. And that's okay. That's how you make it in this world. But understand, there are people who will profit from our ignorance, from our trust, from our naivety. Okay, we're going to get rid of this one comment here because I'm not going to tolerate stuff like this. When it comes to, no, I'm not even going to touch this subject because it's just ridiculous. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video here. What I'm trying to say, I know I am not going to say everything the best. I know I'm not the smartest person on the planet, and that's perfectly fine. But what I'm trying to say is, through my experience, I've learned that there are people in power that will take advantage of our trust and our naivety and use our emotions against us if we allow it. And that's the beautiful thing, because it doesn't matter what somebody else tries to do. It's if you accept it is where the change really comes from. I don't care how many people try and convince me that jumping off a bridge is the most wonderful experience. If I choose to do it and I fall and hurt myself or die, well, it's my fault because I chose to do it. Now, if somebody picked me up and threw me off the bridge and I have no control over that, that's different. That's like the true definition of slavery. If somebody, and that's why you should really look at things like the 13th Amendment, because the 13th Amendment is not what you think it is, and they're counting on you to not research it, because they legally define the word slavery in the 13th Amendment. And all you have to do is get a pamphlet or a book, or look up the amendments and look up the 13th Amendment. And it says that slavery is listed as involuntary servitude. Involuntary servitude is like someone in the government taking you on a bridge, lifting you up, and throwing you over the bridge. They are not allowed to do that. So that would be involuntary servitude. In other words, you didn't volunteer to do that. They forced you. So that would be considered slavery. Now, if they brought you to a bridge telling you how wonderful it is, and they say, oh, we'll pay you $1 million, and don't worry, you won't die. If you jump off that bridge, it's going to be the most incredible experience. Everybody does it. And you say, oh, okay, you've convinced me, and you jump over. Well, they still tricked you into doing it, but it was through your own choice. In other words, you volunteered your servitude. And that's why they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. So throughout history, they've taken advantage of all of us. And I promise you, the modern day feminists, if you are spending your days being angry, if you're spending your days trying to convince others about your life, if you're trying to spend your days being something that you were not born to be, that is your choice. But are you really happy? And one thing I noticed about, and I'm not going to say everybody's the same, I'm only going to base it on my experience. My friends who are transgenders, every single one of them has talked about the fact that they've wanted to commit suicide, how they're depressed all the time, how they're not happy. Is that because they're transgender or just them as individuals? I don't know. But every single transgender I've ever met has said they've been depressed their whole lives. So maybe there's something more to it. Or maybe that's just too small of an area. So I can't assume that if you're a transgender, you're automatically depressed. But again, to me, it's a choice. But think about who will profit off of choices. Because remember, in the beginning of this video, I talked about the fact that only men smoked before the early 1900s. But through the quote-unquote empowerment of women, they convinced women that they should smoke and be just like men. And what did it do? It created a higher cancer rate, which meant more drugs, more hospital visits, more income for the government, and the tobacco companies doubled their profits. And when it came to women in the workforce, now the government and your television is raising your children instead of parents. So the family values are all gone. And now they're trying to teach women that women should be just like men in every single way. And it's just not physically possible. And it shouldn't be. There's a reason why we are different. It's supposed to be combining the best qualities of differences to create a full puzzle. And unfortunately, we're going to learn the hard way yet again, because we choose to dismiss it. We choose to ignore it. They say, ignore something, it'll go away. That's not always a good thing. Don't brush your teeth. Ignore them, and they'll go away. That's not necessarily a good thing. So thank you very much. I really appreciate those who took the time to listen to what I have to say. I'm not a suit and tie. I'm not a corporate agenda-driven spokesperson. I don't work for mainstream media, nor will I ever work for a corrupt system. I didn't come from Harvard or Yale, so I'm not going to say everything eloquently and say everything in the best form. I'm just a regular person that is tired of the corruption, tired of the lies, tired of the manipulation. And the only way we could fix that is by doing something about it. And unfortunately, we're conditioned to have others take care of us and wonder why nothing ever gets done in the way that we want it. And just look at the world. Are we getting better or are we getting worse? Are we getting closer or more divided? Are we all getting richer or are we getting more poorer? Got to look at the big picture. Don't be fooled anymore. Be who you are. Be strong because it's just good to be strong for yourself. Don't do it for other people. Don't do it to prove a point. Just be, and you will get everything that you work for. Otherwise, you're just easily going to fall into the control of the few that will profit off of your ignorance, naivety, and trust. And then you have nobody to blame but yourself. So thanks for listening. I always appreciate those who take the time to comment. If you have not subscribed to my channel, I really hope you do. I hope you will help and share my videos. And as I've always said, please get yourself out of the bank system. Learn how the banking system is the main reason why we are where we are. Open up a federal credit union. Get yourself some physical gold and silver. It's on sale. I wish I had the money to do it. Speaking of which, I still have those comics that I'm trying to sell to help pay for my water heater / oil burner. So far, no takers, and I really could use the ability. So if you know anybody that wants to at least share that video and get it out there, please, if you can help, just share it. That helps because I got to get this heating system fixed, and I'm not looking for donations. So thank you very much. Leave your comments, all that other stuff, and don't forget to have your trolls spayed or neutered. Hope you all have a wonderful day and stop being so angry. Let's find a better way.